What's going on, brother?
What up?
This is I've got to say, this is going to be a very special episode.
This is a cool episode, but this is the first Paul and Steve only episode.
It is. It is just us.
It's not like a guest backed out or anything.
No.
We just wanted to torture our listeners for like 90 minutes.
That's right. You're stuck with us.
You're stuck with us.
So if you're like, I can't wait to see who they have as a guest, nobody.
Yeah, my guest today is Paul Varacchi.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And here we are on NPR. And my guest today will be celebrity chef Paul Varacchi.
Hi.
Yes. Yo, dude. So this is cool.
This is really cool.
And so when we were planning for this episode, we were trying to figure out what the heck we were going to talk about.
And then we realized that our two favorite movies had something hugely fucking in common, dude.
Yeah. And not just our favorite, but I think influential in terms of our sort of appreciation for film and
absolutely
what motivated us in getting into the business and just liking movies and really tapped into our nerd factor and stuff.
For sure. These were definitely the two movies that opened the.
Yeah, for sure. But before we get into that, we have been actually putting up hints on our YouTube as to what this episode eventually would be, and here we are now. And so if you've been following our YouTube all these months, and there are a couple of videos out there with homages that are hints as to what we were going to talk about today.
Yes.
So hopefully you discovered those.
And today we are going to talk about, let's just go into our intro, Wolf v. Wolf.
Yeah, Wolf v. Wolf.
And that is going to be one of my favorite movies, Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Yes.
And
American Werewolf in London.
Which is also should be one of everybody's favorite movies.
Yes. Yeah.
I understand why people don't like Brotherhood of the Wolf, but nobody should not like American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, I was going to say, Brotherhood of the Wolf is one of those movies where you
love it or hate it.
You fucking love it, or you're just like, what? I don't get it.
It's just like you. Completely understood. You love them or you hate them.
Yeah. But, well, I mean, we're going to get to it, but it's I hadn't seen Brotherhood, and I rewatched it for this, and I hadn't seen it in 20 years or something. Mm-hmm. And the last impression I had of it was, it's okay.
Yeah.
But I kind of have a different impression now rewatching it, maybe through a different lens of a, life experience and just different things. I appreciate different things than I did 20 years ago. But it was great to rewatch, honestly.
When I first saw Brotherhood of the Wolf, again, I mentioned before that part of the reason I'm such a huge movie buff is, because of the time I spent watching movies with my dad.
Right.
This was one of very few movies that when we went and saw again 2 days later.
Mm-hmm.
And we went and saw it at the Angelica Theater.
So that's 5 hours of your life you can't get back.
Right? It's 5 hours of my life that I don't want back either. But I will say that if you go see a movie at the Angelica, you're going to go see something that's independent, that's probably not released everywhere else.
Yeah.
And it was just the only theater it was playing at in the city.
So for those listening that haven't seen this movie, the trailer is in the show notes.
Yes.
And it is a French film. It's actually the 6th highest grossing French film in North America.
That is amazing. I did not know that. That is awesome.
I did my research, dude.
Nice.
I looked it up.
I know.
But no,
I know
seriously.
You did your research because you're talking all week long. I'm like, dude, I know.
I've been texting you. Oh my God. Whatever. But yeah, no, it's a massively it's probably one of the most successful foreign films in this country.
Yeah.
And Canada. Mm-hmm. Right. But, yeah, it's great. It's great. So you saw it twice back to back.
So I went and I saw it twice back to back. And then, it was just one of those movies where even now, look, you can't see, but I have goosebumps. I have goosebumps just talking about the end of it. I want to stand up and I want to clap. It's just one of those movies. And again, I don't think it's the greatest movie ever made, but it's one of my favorite movies ever. I don't know if that people understand that.
Right.
But there's a huge difference in the two. There's my personal opinion, and then there's being objective. So I will say that this is one of my favorite movies ever. But it is, but I don't think it's one of the greatest movies ever made.
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, there's definitely, if you were looking at it from a filmmaker perspective, there are definitely some issues that people could debate about, like
pacing.
Like, does it need to be 2.5 hours long? Do you need that much slow motion? You know, like everything is shot in slow motion. I mean, and one of my pet peeves is like slow motion in fights. Mm-hmm. They nail it very well in this movie.
They do. It's the rest of it.
Yeah, it's the slow motion all the other times. Yes. It's like, okay, like I don't need to see that very slow. But it was really fun to rewatch this movie and then to dive deep into researching it. It was like really cool, Makes
me happy to hear you say that.
Well, I know, because people like of all the episodes, I mean, I think people like, I know some people will listen to this podcast and they won't ever watch the YouTube, but maybe watch the YouTube for this one, even if it's not your normal thing, because you're going to see to what level Paul is a fucking nerd about this movie.
You have no idea, guys.
Yeah. You have no idea. So before we get into my choice, American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
And why I chose that movie.
Yeah.
We need to thank some people, namely our sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't be here.
And first and foremost, I'm just going to go for Fight or Flight Entertainment, because with the movies that we're talking about and some of the scenes that we're talking about, there was definitely some flying involved.
Oh, there was certainly rigging involved in Brotherhood of the Wolf.
There was, without a doubt. And it was 100% done very well.
Yeah, yeah.
Whenever I see rigging done in a full mountainous background and there's just seamless, I'm amazed.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, who haven't listened to the show before, Brett Koepfer runs Fight or Flight Entertainment, and he's awesome. It's an entertainment rigging company. They specialize in flying people. That's what they do. They fly people.
For a living. I mean, it's awesome. And he goes around, he gives workshops, he teaches you how to be safe.
They suspend people. They hang people in a good way. Can you imagine one of Brett's many workshops that he does nationally? Okay, we're going to hang Paul today. Yeah.
Oh, man, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to travel around and get with Brett just to get hung. Hanged? No, to get hanged, not hung. It's hanged.
I don't want to talk about how hung you are, dude. Okay.
That's the Tuesday podcast.
Yes, that's the special edition. You only get that if you're a paying Patreon member.
Of the lowest level.
Yeah. So, what was not in Brotherhood of the Wolf, but very well probably was in American Werewolf in London, was a camera car.
A camera car, and I mean, who else would we think of to use when we think of camera cars outside of Metro camera cars?
Nobody else.
Nobody. There's Joe Baris and Metro camera cars, and that's it.
Yeah. They really have made camera cars of a very high level, driven by stunt drivers with very accomplished cinematographers that know their shit, right? That are available across this country at an affordable price. Like, he set out to start a camera car company that was sort of budget wise in the mid range, not out of reach of the lower budget films, and totally succeeded. I mean, this guy, he's shot Formula One cars. He's shot, you name it.
Go to his Instagram chases, and look at it's awesome. I mean, when I see his car setups and I see all those, it blows my mind.
And we've worked with Joe, because he's a stunt performer.
Come and train with us at Breakfall.
Yep. And he's amazing.
Yep,
he's amazing. Sure. And our awesome sponsor, Stunt Contact.
Without Stunt Contact, I swear to God, if it wasn't for you guys like James Armstrong and Tony Vincent, they would be getting like 72 emails in a row from me, because I would forget who I emailed.
But yeah, I mean, there was nothing like Stunt Contact, like the way that they have it designed. I mean, this is a reboot of the original Stunt Contact, which is a subscription, like newsletter, basically, like production breakdown. And they've rebooted in the most amazing way, and their web interface is incredible. So
the ability to take notes is something that I really love.
Yeah, for sure. Take notes on each submission that you send in, and they have everything from pre-production, in development, all the way up to production, post-production. It's just a great great resource. I mean, there's tons of ways to get information out there for us performers that are looking for work, but Stunt Contact is definitely up there, man.
Word.
So American Werewolf in London.
American Werewolf in London. John Landis.
Yo, John Landis. Who would have thought that
the director of Animal House.
Yeah, who would have thought the man behind National Lampoon's Vacation would create the most iconic,
influential
horror movie
ever? Like, I mean, I can't remember. Again, I've growing up, walking across a newsstand when they actually sold fucking newspapers and comic books and shit.
Like Fangoria magazine,
and
baby.
Fangoria magazine. There was never an episode of Fangoria magazine that didn't have some type of a scene or something talked about from American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, because it was groundbreaking.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, it won an Oscar. Rick Baker, who created and designed the creature effects for the movie.
Yes,
first Oscar ever for makeup effects. Interestingly, he worked with John Landis on John Landis's first movie.
Yes,
and I think John Landis wrote American Werewolf in London in the late 60s, like 67, 68, something like that, and had it in his back pocket and just wanted to make it. He worked with Rick Baker, told him about it, and for years, Baker was like, I'm going to come up with a way to do this. And anybody who hasn't seen the movie, again, go see it, and at least go watch the trailers and stuff, but it has the most amazing werewolf transformation scene, I still think, to this day.
It is awesome. And
it's all practical.
It's all practical.
Yeah.
And just the way it was edited and cut, and it was, I mean, fucking seamless.
I was a 13-year-old kid. I snuck into the theater to see this. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So beyond the fact that it was an awesome movie, it was also the first time I saw like breasts on a screen, because that scene where they're in the porn theater,
yes.
Right? And I was like, for a 13-year-old boy, like, holy shit, what the fuck? But that scene is amazing where David Naughton, who plays David, right, is sitting in the theater talking to the undead.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yes.
But
the also something that I love is, and I mentioned it, is the evolution and how they get more and more. There's more and more decay the more he shows up.
Right.
Like that to me, it's almost, it's genius, but comedic.
Yeah.
As well.
Well, John Landis put so much comedy in this movie.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's still a tragedy. It's still like a Beauty and the Beast story. But so I was this 13-year-old kid. I see this movie, and I was going to, like, when my friends were going to summer camp or whatever, I went to filmmaking camp, right? So, and every summer we would do, from script to screen, we'd do I'm assuming it was with the film students from New York Institute of Technology that held the camp. One summer we did our own, like, I wish I had it. I still wish I had it. It was on like VHS. We shot it and edited it on like Betamax, like big Betamax decks, like editing decks, right? But we did our own kid version of American Werewolf in London.
Nice.
And we were all just like playing with latex and trying to make our faces change and do all this kind of stuff. I mean, and that's where, like, really this movie, 1981, like this movie and probably Raiders of the Lost Ark, the two movies that really pushed me into, like, wow, that is a direction that I might like to go. But I always thought I'd be behind the scenes, not so much in front of the camera. But American Werewolf in London, dude, so good. So good.
I mean, it's the one thing that I always loved about it is every time I go back and I watch it, I feel like it's not the same movie that I remember. And it makes me appreciate it differently. Like this time I went back and I watched it. I was like, fuck, I forgot how funny this movie was.
Yeah.
Like I forgot that it was John Landis and there was still John Landis.
Yeah.
That comedy, that delivery, it was still in there. It was great.
Yeah. Like for the listeners, if you haven't seen it, there's definitely going to be spoilers, obviously, in this episode. So too bad. But right? I mean, come on, the movie's like was from 1981, so we're not worrying about spoilers. But you know, let's just start at the beginning, right? There's the first kill.
Yes.
So Griffin Dunn, who plays Jack, and David Naughton, who plays David, they're backpacking across Europe, and they're in the moors of England, and they stumble into this pub, Slaughtered Lamb. Actually, it starts with them. They were hitchhiking
the truck, right?
With a truck. They get out of the back of a truck that's full of lambs.
Yes.
Right? It's full of sheep.
Yes.
And they get out, and the guy's like, be careful, stick to the road, stay off the moors, all that kind of stuff. And then they basically leave this truckload of lambs. They show up to a pub in the small town that's called the Slaughtered Lamb. Right? They're already telling you, like, so Landis is already like, we're telling you what's going to happen here. You know what I mean? And then they walk into the pub, and it's like dead silence. Everything stops.
And one thing that I also noticed, it's all men except for the
barmaid.
The barmaid.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
it's never really gone into anything, but I always wondered what the reason is that it's all men and one barmaid.
It reminds me of all the Greek soccer clubs in my neighborhood in Astoria. Oh my God. But yeah, so they're in there, right? And they walk in and everything shuts down, and they're like, who are these strangers? And then they notice a pentagram on the wall. And then slowly, they kind of get into the groove, and everybody's back to telling jokes and whatnot and playing chess. There was a chess game going on.
The scene when they're just talking casually, like, oh, and what's the
Yeah. Well, I mean, come on. Jack was so stupid, honestly. They're all finally, everybody's like, all right, these foreigners are here. They get back to business. They're having fun. And the guy's telling the joke. Remember the Alamo joke.
Yes.
Right? And he's like, and the American chucks out the Mexican. Remember the Alamo, right? It's in the crashing plane.
Yep.
And while he's telling the joke, they're cutting to David and Jack, and Jack's like, ask about the pentagram. And David's like, no, let's not ask it. He's like, ask about the pentagram. And he's like, no. And you're just like, I'm sitting there watching like, dude, you are so stupid. This is so totally a read the room moment. Like,
right?
Do not ask about the fucking pentagram. But he asks about the pentagram.
And the whole room gets quiet.
Yeah.
Like after midst of laughter, when they all found that moment of where you're like, okay, it's comfortable. We're going to get through this.
Yeah. Yep. And they basically kick him out. Like, get the fuck out of here.
They're like, yes. They're like, get the fuck out. But then the barmaid.
Yeah, she's like, oh, you can't let them go. Don't let them go. And they're like, they brought it on themselves. It was like, no, let them.
There was that great willful ignorance of them just sitting there processing everything that was happening. And they're just like.
And they do go to get them.
He'll be fine.
Yeah.
He'll be fine. And they do go to get them.
That's the look everybody gets on the subway car when that crazy fucker walks in and starts going nuts, and everybody's staring at the floor saying like, yeah, nothing wrong here, nothing to see here.
Right.
They're all just ignoring the fact that it's a full moon. These two guys are going to go out and get slaughtered.
Well, and they know it because obviously this is something that they fucking deal with.
Yeah, for sure.
So, there's that tension.
Yep.
That's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then they send them out, and then they're like, okay, we got to go get them. But
totally. It's crazy. And then there's the first kill. It's just awesome.
And the first kill. And then, again, that first kill, as you people will see on the YouTube, some of you may have seen something similar to this.
Yes.
In a movie that has been more recent.
Yeah.
And then so I'll let you go into that because this is your movie.
Yeah. Well, no, it's Army of the Dead.
Army of the Dead.
Right.
Yes.
So Army of the Dead, I'm watching the movie with my wife. There's when the creature escapes, from the
opening scene when they get in a car accident.
Yeah.
Right.
The truck
flips over and the fucking door is left open.
The door, and then the creature comes out. And it's massacring everybody, and the two soldiers run off into the desert. That scene is the total homage of the first.
When he trips, right? When they're running and he falls.
Yeah, but even before that, where they're like, it's hunting us. And they're running. He's like, I think we're good. Oh, no. And then you hear the howl in the background, and then they're like, trying to decide whether they should run faster or they should keep running or they're far enough away or what's going on. And then there's a moment where in American Werewolf in London, David trips and falls, and Jack leans over him from a low angle. You're looking up from David's POV, and Jack is like, dude, you totally scared me. And he reaches down to help him up, and the wolf just rips into him. Right.
Amazing.
And then the same thing in Army of the Dead, the two soldiers, the one trips, he's on the ground, low angle. The only difference is they in Army of the Dead, they had the guy on the ground said, "Oh, that scared me."
Yeah.
You know, and then but then the low angle, the other soldier reaching down, and then the creature comes in. It's like shot for shot. It's almost like the same scene. So we put a side by side comparison of the two scenes.
Yeah.
Up on our YouTube. So definitely go check that out, man. I love when I see homages
for sure
like that. Especially it just goes to show like how iconic that movie is, you know. When I was watching Brotherhood of the Wolf, again, I didn't expect to see as many similarities to other movies. It's like, there you go. Look at it.
One of those movies is Jaws, which I am wearing a shirt for. This is in case you haven't noticed, this entire shirt is the basically the entire third act of Jaws.
Yeah.
All broken down into little pieces.
But dude, you texted me, like, because I texted you saying, yo, the opening sequence of Brotherhood of the Wolf reminds me of the dream sequence from American Werewolf in London.
Yes.
You know, where David's dreaming that he's going through the forest, running through the forest as the wolf. And there's a scene before the first kill in Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Those sweeping shots.
The sweeping shots of going through the forest.
Yes.
And I was like, that's just the same. And then so you write back, oh, it's totally Jaws. And I'm like, the fuck you talking about? Jaws? Jaws? Are you fucking kidding me? And then so we get to the kill, and the kill is entirely Jaws.
It's entirely Jaws.
It is Jaws.
Yeah.
It is entirely Jaws. The first kill. And then
the first kill, without a doubt, totally reminded me of Jaws. There's a lot of other things throughout the movie that we'll bring up as we progress through talking about both of these.
Yeah. But the first kill of the beast in Brotherhood of the Wolf is like a mirror of the first kill in Jaws.
Yes, and we did the mashup.
We did a mashup.
Yes.
That's up on our YouTube too.
But this one, for me, because of where my brain is with Brotherhood of the Wolf and this, I had kind of a cooler idea on the mashup, on how to
it was an actual mashup, right?
Yeah.
So for American Werewolf, we just did a side-by-side comparison. Right. It was almost shot for shot. For the Jaws Brotherhood, we did an actual mashup. We did it. If you watch the video, which will be linked on our show notes, there's the side-by-side, and then I cut the two scenes together using entirely
which is really cool.
The Jaws Jaws soundtrack.
Yes.
And it flows like it was the same movie. Dude. It's insane how they don't match up as well side by side, but the spirit of the attack is the same. Yeah. Like the Jaws scene is a little longer, right? But when you sync them together, like in this, you cut them together into one scene. That was your idea. And I was like, I texted you afterwards. You've created a monster. Like I'm sitting in front of the laptop editing, cutting this together. And I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah. It so works. Yeah. Even the sound of the water sounds like her climbing the rocks. Yeah. I was like, that's insane. It was so, that's why I was just like, man, and then there were so many other things throughout the movie. Yeah. And to me, shout out to Jaws. So shout out to Jaws for sure. But Brotherhood of the Wolf is like, okay, so American Werewolf in London is 100% horror genre, maybe with some comedy thrown in. Right? Brotherhood of the Wolf has got you don't even want to say it's got layers. It's got political intrigue. It's like four movies. It's a horror movie. It's an action movie. It's drama. It's weird, rapey, incesty. Yeah, that's, just so much random shit that come about in this movie. I love period pieces. So for those who haven't seen it, it takes place in pre-revolutionary France, 1697 or some shit. 1700s, late 18th century. The revolution is stirring. So the movie's told as a memoir of the survivor of everything that you're going to see in the movie. Yes. And he's writing this memoir saying, I'm the last person alive that knows the truth about these killings. Yes. And by the way, this was this movie was based on a true story. The Beast of Gévaudan, that is about a series of murders of unsolved murders of almost
what was it, like
60 or 70
60 or
unsolved
70
murders.
people on the French countryside.
And there was a mythology that built up around it that it was like some kind of wolf or something. They, but it was unsolved. They never knew who did these murders. So this movie, Brotherhood of the Wolf, is sort of the nugget of that. Like, it's a weird historical fiction, this movie.
And that these murders was actually not a wolf, that it was somebody, and it was trying to create an undermining of the king and authority, and trying to get people to turn. It was deep. You've got like the whole
political intrigue, Pope trying to undermine the king, right? Then you've got the whole investigation of the beast, which is very much like Jaws.
Yes,
it's so Jaws. Like, so they got all these killings and they think it's some kind of beast, and they bring in this naturalist who's also
the Fronsac.
Yes. And Fronsac is like a veteran, but they kind of call him a libertine. Like, he's a ladies' man, a foo-foo, like whatever, which is so funny because of that time in France, everybody's walking around with their fake moles and makeup.
Right.
And very, affectatious or whatever. But so they bring in Fronsac because he's a naturalist, but that he was also a veteran and he's seen wartime, and he comes with his with Manny, who's played by
Mark Dacascos,
right? Interesting little side note. So Mark Dacascos, a lot of people know him from John Wick 3.
Yes.
Right, which was amazing.
Only the Strong.
Yes.
If you don't know Mark Dacascos from a movie called Only the Strong, a Capoeira movie from back in the early 90s, late 80s, I'm sorry, go fucking see it. Cult classic.
It's very good. But Mark Dacascos being in John Wick 3, the director of photography for John Wick 3 was Dan Louston, who I had an opportunity to work with for a couple of days, which was pretty amazing. But Dan Louston was the director of photography for Brotherhood of the Wolf. This is a really small world moment there. That was like so cool. Because when I was looking up the credits after I watched the movie, I was like, oh, holy shit, Dan Louston. No wonder this thing is so beautifully shot. Yeah. And the colors are so vivid. And it's, it's just amazing. Cool little factoid.
Yeah.
That's connecting all these dots together.
So let's get to the opening scene of Brotherhood of or the next scene of Brotherhood of the Wolf. Let's start to move through these movies.
Sure.
So the next scene is this awesome fight in the rain when Manny is not Manny and Gregor de Fronsac are coming up on the horses, but there's just all of a sudden these cross-dressed people beating the living shit out of an old man and a woman.
Yeah. Like, they're getting beaten. But so Fronsac and Manny are in these old school trifold hats. They've got this right here.
Yeah, the leather dusters. Yeah, I had two custom pops made, by the way, just to go into my nerdnum of this movie. So I have these two custom pops made from the opening scene.
And it's rain, and the rain is dripping off of their hats, and they've got these dusters, and their faces are covered.
And the sound of the drips, to me was just amazing in that scene. Like, whenever I think about that scene, I hear that sound.
Totally. But he's kind of so. Anyway, you tell the story, because they're coming and they stumble across this.
So they're coming in and they stumble across these two people getting the shit kicked out of them by what you're assuming is soldiers. And I don't know how, but they lead it up very well to believe that these are soldiers, and
soldiers that look like they're from the Road
they're
Warrior.
Completely and totally they're dressed up like women, and they're beating the crap out of them. And you start hearing that she's a witch. I believe they said once or twice.
Yeah.
And then Mark Dacascos gets off his horse.
Yep.
And he gets off his horse and he
quarterstaff
into the fucking ground. Great splash of the quarterstaff when it hits the ground. Nice little slow motion scene.
Yeah.
Again, this whole scene I thought was beautifully shot, especially the slow motion.
Link to the fight is in the show notes.
And then he immediately takes this quarterstaff and starts to beat the fuck out of these guys.
Everybody.
Every single fucking one of them. And I don't know what else but there's nothing better than watching Mark Dacascos beat the shit out of people on screen. He's really good at it. And what's great about this scene is, he works everybody over. But what you don't know, and what you will find out when you take this home and you watch it, is we'll go in now. We can talk a little bit about editing.
So for the people listening, Paul is referring to this DVD set.
So this is a special edition DVD of Brotherhood of the Wolf. It has a director's cut in it that's a little bit longer, but it also has a lot of deleted footage. Yeah. And we talk about editing and fight scenes all the time. And there's an extended 2/3 of this fight. So what you see in the movie is 1/3 of this fight. When Manny gets off the horse, beats the fuck out of these guys, then you see DeFrancesch come and give him a warning. Well, what was really shot was Manny fights these guys. Then DeFrancesch gets off the horse and Manny throws him the stick. And then he fucks these guys up in his style. And then they come together and they fuck them up together.
But if you watch the movie, it makes sense why they cut that whole part out. Because through most of this movie, spoiler alert, until Manny dies.
Yes.
You don't see Franzak fight at all.
Which makes that third act so much better. And I agree. But when you watch it, you're going to be like, fuck, this would have been awesome in the movie.
Yes. But if you think the house clearing scene in Wick 4 was awesome, which it was.
It was great, especially with the shotgun.
When Franzak clears the house of all what you learn.
The hunting den.
Yeah. So all these cultists.
Yes.
That are behind the killings and everything. It's insane.
It is an amazing scene. And it's the first time you see him. And through this entire movie, it's one of those things where everyone's calling Manny a savage.
Yeah.
And then you come to realize you're like, whoa, he was not the savage.
They even say after he dies, they're like, oh, but who cares? He's just a savage.
Yeah. And it was for me, it was the other way around. The savage was DeFrancesch. And the way that he fought was.
Yeah. And this is what was so great, right? Because he was the naturalist.
Yes.
He was the one that was, and obviously, Manny being an Iroquois was in touch with nature. And there's this whole sort of arc about him and the connection with the wolves.
Yes.
And them really believing this wasn't a wolf. They were like, this is not a wolf, And then
there was a scene when he gave everybody their totem.
Yeah, their spirit animals and whatnot. It was really good. But so to the point though, like cutting the part of Franzak out of the fight makes total sense, because later in the third act when he does fight, you're like, holy fuck. Oh yeah, this guy was a veteran. He's been in wartime. This guy's he's been in the trenches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It has so much a greater impact.
Yeah. And it's not like he knows a thing or two. He fucks people up.
Yeah, for sure. He really does, dude.
That first jumping, spinning back kick when he puts the guy through the wall.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, for sure.
But and then so now that we go through this great first scene, and then we set up this duo, to work together through this movie. As weird as it was that in American Werewolf in London, the duo gets broken up right in the very beginning.
Yes.
But then they continue through the movie together.
Yes.
Which is the opposite of this.
Yes. So like in American Werewolf in London, spoiler alert, right? Jack dies and David thinks he's crazy. He wakes up in a hospital.
Oh, I have in the hospital scene. Why the fuck couldn't he walk? They kept him in bed like he was crippled.
Well, they said he was unconscious for 3 weeks. Like, so when he woke up,
okay.
When he woke up, he was like, "Where's Jack? How's Jack? Blah blah blah."
Right.
He's got the scar, the scar on his face and everything. And the doctor, played by, I don't remember his name. I got it right here because I have a bad memory. John Woodvine, Dr. Hirsch, tells him, you've been unconscious for like 3 weeks.
Oh, by the way, I love the lawyer, and that's in the Landis movies, dude. It was so iconic.
Dude, Landis is great. So, so David is sitting now in the hospital bed he just learned that his friend died.
Yes.
Right? Actually, it's a very similar scene like when Franzak learns that Manny died, but it's, there is that duo theme, that partnership theme in both movies where the partnership gets broken. Right. But so David is sitting in the hospital and the guy from the American embassy walks in. Because he's in London, he's American, right? And they want to investigate this. And the guy from the American embassy walks in, and it's fucking Frank Oz. It's fucking Frank Oz. He's like, I'm from the American embassy. And it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, here's a little thread, because Paul and I like to play like 6 Degrees of Separation.
Yes.
So the creature work in Brotherhood of the Wolf was done by Jim Henson Creature Studio.
Yes.
And then if you go back to American Werewolf in London, there's a special thanks to Jim Henson, even though it was all Rick Baker, obviously. There's a special thanks to Jim Henson in the credits. And you've got Frank Oz in there, you know. And then during the first transformation scene, you've got the Muppets on TV, right? So which is really funny. Like in his horror story, you've got Frank Oz getting credit for playing the American embassy guy. He also gets credit for Miss Piggy in the credits of the movie.
It's kind of amazing how in movies like this, they have little things like that. Like I've never gone back and watched it, but apparently there are all kinds of Star Wars Easter eggs in Indiana Jones.
Oh, yeah.
To the bars that he's in, like one of the bars is apparently called like Obi-Wan. If you look in the background of like the Solo movie, you can see like one of the heads. I mean, all of it. It's really fucking cool when these guys nerd out.
I love the nerding is great.
There's nothing better than
in the finale of American Werewolf in London, where the wolf gets loose. He's in Piccadilly Circus.
Yeah.
And he's rampaging through the circus.
How did they do that? Did they shoot him? Did he have wheels on his stomach?
I don't know.
Was he like pushing himself on like one of those skids, you know?
This scene, it's linked in the show notes. It is an argument for practical. Like there's no VFX, there's no CGI. No. And this wolf is rampaging through
fast.
Like what would be Times Square.
Yeah.
Through these crowds of people. And it looks so fucking real. Cars are crashing. People, it's going crazy. So here's the Easter egg. Indiana Jones is in that scene. Yes,
really?
He is.
Okay.
Vic Armstrong, who doubled Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Was driving the double-decker bus that crashed in that scene.
That's awesome.
He was the assistant stunt coordinator on the movie.
That is awesome.
So, yeah, there's an Indiana Jones Easter egg in American Werewolf in London.
I love when that happens.
Yeah, totally, man. But yeah, so Frank Oz comes in. He's lost his friend. And to your point, it's still a buddy movie in a sense, right? Because now Jack, played by Griffin Dunn, who's undead and can't move on to the other side until the werewolf is killed.
Yes.
Right? Keeps revisiting David to say, like, dude, you got to kill yourself. Dude, you got to kill yourself.
Yes.
Dude, fucking kill yourself.
Please. And then what's great is each time he's more and more decayed.
Yeah. The decomposition is
so genius and hilarious.
Yeah. I didn't do it for this episode, but I need to freeze frame it. And because the scene where Jack first visits David in the hospital, and he starts eating David's breakfast.
Yes.
Right? He picks up a piece of toast, dips it in the eggs, and starts eating it. And then the nurse comes in, and Jack is gone. And David thinks he's insane. I need to freeze frame it because I've been meaning to see if they paid attention to the continuity, if the toast on
had a bite out of it or not,
has been eaten or not.
Ah, that's really funny.
Yeah. I need to go back and check that.
That's funny. Thinking of when you think of that, like that's how my brain was when my first job ever working in film was being a chef on set, and the whole first day I was making food that was going to be in the scene for a movie called When in Rome, and then they came back the next day and they showed me pictures of all the food.
Right.
I didn't realize that they wanted and the pictures that they showed me were after the scene, so they had bites taken out of them. So all of the plates were used. So I grabbed like different size cookie cutters and all kinds of different things in the kitchen and made every single plate look like the picture that they gave me.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they were like, did somebody eat this? I'm like, no, I made all these look like the pictures you gave me. And they just looked at me. They're like, you're fucking awesome. They're like, who told you to do that? I'm like, well, nobody. You just said make the food that was in the pictures. So that was what I did.
There you go.
And then that was when I was like, oh, I think my brain works well with these people.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that American Werewolf in London, if you go and look at the credits, it's like a who's who of like legendary British stunt performers.
Yes.
Not just British, but just obviously
legendary
mostly
in general.
But obviously mostly British, right? Dickie Beer, who we both met at Comic-Con.
Boba Fett.
Yes, because he fell into the Sarlacc pit.
Yes, he did.
Yes.
I have Boba Fett pop, actually the one I brought that when we got signed, but I have a signed by every single person who was in the Boba Fett suit.
I know. I should have brought. He signed my Return of the Jedi movie magazine.
Yes,
but he was in that driving scene, in the Piccadilly Circus scene, and he was on another podcast that doesn't exist anymore. It was so great, called the Stunt Pod, and I don't even think you can get them anymore. I think they took the archive offline. I'm not sure, but I believe it was on that podcast. Anyway, listeners should go check it. If you're interested in stunt history, you definitely should listen to the Stunt Pod. It's based out of England. It's a great show, really great interviews. And Dickie Beer was on it, and he was talking about doing that Piccadilly Circus scene, that they didn't have permission to lock down the streets.
Oh, that's right. And they drove the stunt cars around to the block.
They literally were driving, the stunt drivers were driving and making their way to the front of traffic and at the red lights. So when the light turned green, they wouldn't go. Right.
Oh, my
and then they
God.
would shoot scenes, and then the people were getting pissed. He was like, it was the most crazy guerrilla thing ever.
Crazy.
Yeah. Like, if you guys can find that episode of the Stunt Pod, it's a great interview with Dickie Beer. But he was so awesome because, the dude's freaking Boba Fett, right? So he was at Comic-Con here at New York. I was all excited. As you know, I don't go crazy over Comic-Con like some people.
Which is why I get your ticket every year.
Yeah, totally. Because you're the Comic-Con nerd. So I go. My wife was there. Chris was there, and she was like, "We're looking for his booth." And I'm thinking, because now this is Mandalorian phase, Boba Fett, all that shit is popular now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's gonna be a massive line to get an autograph.
Nope, you walked right up to him and talked to him for 20 minutes.
There was nobody there.
Yep.
I ended up getting to talk
awesome.
with this guy for 30 minutes.
I know, I was with you.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
But yeah. He lives in LA now. I think his daughter is a stunt performer now.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So very cool. Lots of small Easter eggs. If you go deep enough, all the stuff's connected.
For sure. So now we've basically established that his friend is still with him, but afterwards. And now we introduce the love interest.
Yes.
We have the nurse who, when I watch this movie, I am sorry, but she is the most fucking naive woman.
Which one?
The nurse.
Both of them. In both movies.
That fucking, yeah, right. Both of them. I'm just
not Monica Bellucci.
No, not Monica Bellucci.
Monica Bellucci's
Marion.
Yeah, is in
Monica
Brotherhood
Bellucci was badass in that. She was the assassin.
She's the opposite of
the assassin. She was fucking.
She's
she was
very
the spy.
strategic.
Yeah, she was the spy for the
Pope.
No, not the Pope. Sardis was the bishop.
Right.
The Pope was kind of the good guy who sent in Monica Bellucci.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, but she was the spy for that everybody was looking for that nobody knew.
Yeah.
And it was the mountain boobs.
Yeah, there's something you can only do in a French movie, which is a nude sex scene that finishes on Monica Bellucci's
Bellucci's boobs, and then fades out into a snow portrait of two
mountains.
Snowy mountains and a fucking wolf.
Only a French film. Only. Now that you could do slow-mo for a while.
And only Monica Bellucci's boobs.
Yeah. But anyway, so you're saying, the love interest.
So the love interest come into play. And again, in both movies, both completely fucking naive. The fact that I understand why Marion becomes infatuated with the Franzak. Sure. I cannot figure out why the fuck this nurse likes this fucking dude.
It's okay,
everything about him is fucking shady that should say run.
Nurse Price, right? So Nurse Price, played by what's her name? Jenny. We're so fucked up with names on this show.
We're the worst.
We should do research, but a gutter. I'm gonna say a gutter.
A gutter. Leetich.
Yeah. You know, she's gorgeous. Actually, she was the sort of the more seasoned cast member, of those three.
Yes.
David Naughton was the 7-Up guy. No, the Dr. Pepper guy or whatever. But it was she was the more seasoned one.
No, they were comedic. Every time I see his buddy, I can't stop thinking about Animal House and all of those.
Yeah, but Griffin Dunn. I mean, what had Griffin Dunn really done before that?
No, I'm talking about his friend.
Oh yeah, David Naughton. Yeah. Griffin Dunn. But anyway, so how does she fall for this college?
David Naughton was I'm so sorry, but he was the brother in Johnny Dangerously, and he was fucking hilarious.
Yes.
He was so funny.
Oh, and he also sings what theme song? He sings
Johnny, I've gotta get laid.
No, David Naughton sings the theme song for oh my God, there's a sitcom. I'm gonna have to look it up. He's a singer. He just does everything. The dude's awesome. Multi-talented, you know. But anyway, so how does Nurse Price fall for this like college age guy that's stuck? It's almost like it was like not
and
almost
everything
like
about the entire is like, oh, this guy could fucking murder me. Like there is something not right in his head.
There's a dude that,
and as a person, nothing should make me feel safe around him.
Yeah.
But she's just like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. It's like, okay, this is a guy that the police are investigating. He was involved in like a homicide that they're thinking it might be him crazy, believing he's a wolf and that he's out there killing people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Not
as a wolf, which he really is, but as just some crazy dude who has delusions that he thinks he's a wolf. And she's like, oh yeah, he can crash at my pad. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like you have to just accept it. You know, kind of like, I mean, both movies have a lot of, you just have to accept
just take
things.
Yeah.
Just go with it. But she becomes a love interest. She's with him through to the end. And I ain't gonna lie, man, that Beauty and the Beast moment where at the end of the Piccadilly Circus, where the wolf is cornered in that alley. And of course she runs in because she knows it's him. They've, you know, and the wolf sees her and she's begging with him to just like stop, you know? And there's that brief moment where you see in the wolf's eyes, like a flicker of recognition of, I know her.
Right. But I feel like you see it more in that snap and like right in here.
Yeah. It relaxes.
And that ridge where it just kind of like relaxes and then it fucking goes back up and then you hear the gunshots.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was so well done. But of course, you know me, I'm like, well, if that was real life, I was like, she would have got fucking shot too. Cause there's no way.
Yeah, cops don't train it off of guns.
There's no way.
To
Not
be that
in London.
Good, especially not British cops.
Like, sorry, but you know.
I mean, it was like a SA, like a tactical team, but still.
But it was still really funny. I was just like, even my wife, she's just like, there's no way she would have gotten through that. Like down that small little alley, she's like, no, she would have got shot.
Oh, she was just pushing herself through all the picket barricades and stuff. Like,
yeah.
But to your point, like, what was she thinking? Like, what was she thinking?
Like, and then to be infatuated enough with the guy to go down in the alley with barrels of guns at her back.
Yeah.
To just only be worried about him.
And you know what's weird? I realized this week because my wife watches Call the Midwife. So the head nun of Call the Midwife is her. Really? Is a gutter.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God.
I love when
that's
happens.
Her. All these years later.
I love when that happens.
It's so cool.
So then, I mean, you just kind of jumped at the end. We're jumping around. I don't care. We're rewinding. Cause like, even before you get to the love interest in Brotherhood of the Wolf, when they have that dinner, right? When they have that dinner, there is kind of what I like to
when he brings out the furry fish.
Yes. I almost like to consider the second opening scene, which is the rain fight. So for me, I'm like, whenever we talk about the opening scene in Brotherhood of the Wolf, I always have to remember that it was the attack. And then we had this, and then we have the dinner scene.
Yes.
So now the dinner scene was great, and he brings out the furry fish, which was hilarious. And I want you to know that I am
so for those who don't understand, right? So he's a naturalist, and he's having dinner.
A taxidermist.
Yeah. And he's having dinner with all these aristocrats and wealthy snobs.
Yes.
Who, you know, all have, some of them actually want the killings to keep going on. Some of them don't. Some of them don't care.
Well, you can see that they're starting to sow the political intrigue in this, where there are some people on one side and some people on another side, but they all are together in the same room.
Yeah, exactly. So you're kind of getting some of the politics there. And so he's trying to tell them, oh, this is not some beast. This is like, it can't be, you know? Right.
He's like, sometimes what you think is not what it really is.
And he brings out a fish that's covered in fur.
And when you look at it, I mean, in the scene, when you look, you're like, holy shit, that's a furry fish. That looks great.
And everybody at the table, either genuinely or at least playing along, is like, oh, wow. You know,
the impossible is actually possible.
Yeah. Well, because it's really cold over there in Canada or where, you know, and
like, it must be so cold that they grew fur.
And then the one guy says that's total bullshit.
The antagonist.
Yes.
Vincent Cassel.
Vincent Cassel.
I don't know if you guys know who Vincent Cassel is, but he is a phenomenal fucking French actor. He has amazing athletic ability. He was the Night Fox in Ocean's 13, and I've been a fan of him forever. And I always, and again, his introduction when he turned around and he said that, I was very excited to see him in this movie. And when he says that in his snide, like, it was such a great introduction of like, I know who you are. I know what kind of a guy you are. He's like, and I'm not buying your bullshit.
He's also the brother of the love interest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Creepy fucking brother.
Yeah.
Who's in love with his sister.
Yeah. They go there.
They go there. They fucking go there.
Yeah, they do. But yeah. Anyway, so you were saying, so this dinner happens, he brings out the fish.
So this dinner happens and he brings out the fish, and then, there's all that. And then my favorite scene is actually when he goes outside and he's, the poet is hitting on the love interest.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He goes out there and he makes up the story of how the head of the house is looking for someone to write his memoirs. And he's like,
this is Franzak. Franzak goes.
Yes.
out.
And he's like, hey, if you go in there right now, he's like, he might be able to catch him in a good mood. And he's like, and he gets him to go away so he can talk to his love interest. So that was, again, it was like, the comedic moment in this serious movie. So again, like, there's just layers of this movie.
The layers, but it's this is where it's like we go back to Jaws, right? Because like the whole beginning part of Brotherhood of the Wolf, and you see it in this dinner scene, is like the people who think it's some kind of supernatural, some crazy creature.
It's like the chalkboard scene.
Yeah, kind of.
When they're
I mean, it's like you've got three theories going on about what's doing all these killings.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's a wolf. One, it's some mystical thing. And then you've got the naturalist who's like, nope, there's an explanation, scientific explanation to this or whatever. And it reminded me so much of like Jaws with Brody being like, we just need to take care of this so the town can go back to being the town. Yeah. You know, and then actually the mayor, then Brody's boss, is kind of like, you know, the king, like just take care of the shit so I can start making money again. You know what I mean? But it's like, so you got Brody, and then you got Quint, who's just like the hunter. We're just going to massacre this beast, you know? And then you've got Richard Dreyfuss's character, which is the naturalist, who's like approaching it all with like science. And it's so much the same as like Brotherhood of the Wolf. Yeah. And the whole first half of Brotherhood of the Wolf is literally like a detective story hunting this thing that they don't know what it is.
And they also do a great job of the same way of Jaws, is you don't really see the full beast or the full, you know, until they're ready to reveal it.
Well, and that's why
of course in Jaws had to do with mechanical errors, but
yeah, no, I know, but the thing is like, here's another similarity is like in Jaws, you're so invested in the story that even when the shark comes out, you're just like, okay, it doesn't really look like a real shark, but it's so fucking, the story's so good. Like, even though Quint's, you know, going down the gullet of that shark at the end, and part of your brain's like, that looks fake. But part of you is like, oh my God.
Well, actually, it was, we need a bigger boat.
Yeah,
when he popped off the side, and you're just like, that doesn't look like a real shark, but fuck, that's scary.
Yeah. But the same thing is like when they reveal the beast in Brotherhood of the Wolf, it's dated. It's the CGI is terrible. Yeah. You know, so you kind of have to like, I don't know, the close-ups of the wolf were awesome. And
because again, that was
Jim Henson stuff.
The Jim Henson stuff, and that was all the puppet work. And Dushan, a guy I worked with on Olga Dies Dreaming, was the effects supervisor on there, and he actually signed my Blu-ray down there.
Nice.
Yeah, I brought him. It was cool when we were on set one day. We had a slow day, and I brought him all the props that I have.
They should have done the whole thing practical. Just like American Werewolf in London, you know, I mean, they should have just used that model. Right. But to the point, you can suspend disbelief with the shark, and you can suspend disbelief with the bad CGI of the creature for the story. Yeah. It's so much better. So we've got like the detective theme. We've got like the period piece, political intrigue theme. Yep. But what's so crazy about Brotherhood of the Wolf is they basically took, like when I was rewatching Brotherhood of the Wolf, because like right now I'm also watching Franklin on Apple. It's like this whole, you know, it's the same period in France. I'm like, wow, the wardrobe people were the same. Imagine taking a kung fu movie and dropping it in the middle of Ben Franklin's show. Right. That's like what Brotherhood of the Wolf is. Yeah. So they have these insane fight scenes, and I think this is a time.
And the next fight scene is one of my favorites. Is when they're at the hunting, when they're at when they got the whole town together,
the
camp fight together, and he fights the gypsies and the two women and the two men.
And they bring out these fucking things. So the people that he's fighting turn out to be those cult members, the cultists, or whatever they are, that are behind the beast.
Yeah.
And they're fighting with these Wolverine-style type things.
The gypsy claws.
Yes. And
I actually...
Yeah, and bring that shit up here, dude.
I have the actually screen-used gypsy claw from Brotherhood of the Wolf.
You're such a nerd.
With the case.
This is great. Look at that shit.
Here you go. This is steel, by the way.
Yeah,
this is stainless steel. This is what they were swinging at each other.
This is totally
during those
nuts.
scenes. And this is the nice leather case.
So Mark DiCroce is fighting these folks in a group, like a 5-on-1 fight or whatever it is.
It's 2-on-1, and then the two girls, and it's 2-on-1 again.
Yes, wearing these things. It's insane.
Yeah,
the fight's linked in our show notes, by the way. Crazy, totally crazy.
So yes, and in case I am going to be pulling out all of these are not replicas; these are actually the screen-used props from this movie, guys.
But what's great, and what you know, is like my pet peeve is when people should be having different fighting styles, but they don't.
Yes.
And everybody's fighting the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, to me, it's like a weakness in choreography.
Yeah.
You know? And then so when you get Franzak fighting in the end,
the
big finale.
Right.
And even when he was clearing the house, like what we talked about.
It was much more...
completely different than Mark DiCroce's.
It was like the different... Like, put it this way. It was like Kung Fu and Krav Maga. Yeah. You know, it was like, oh, that looks cool, to just like, oh my God, he just fucked that guy up.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. So I know you got... Bring out some of those props.
I do. I have more. Okay. So...
We need to see this.
So again, as we move on, Manny, when he goes full on after everybody and he decides to hunt and chase the wolf,
which is not a wolf, by the way.
There is it is not yet.
Not yet.
But there's a scene when they are the loading scene and the shooting scene when they're all learning how to shoot and they're all breaking out their weapons.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their guns, right? The young guy, he's got the fucking crossbow that they crank up that for some reason penetrates everything that the bullet
like
can't.
A gun, like they shoot guns into these pumpkins.
And it doesn't go through the other side of the pumpkin.
No, and also the pumpkins look like they're filled with like orange
goo and have no seeds.
It's like, dude, if pumpkins only bled like that. But anyway, like, so these bullets are not penetrating the pumpkin, yet this kid shoots a crossbow. It goes through a pumpkin, through the tree, through a statue behind it. Right. It goes through fucking everything.
And then breaks like a flower pot or some shit.
Yeah.
So this is the axe that Manny used throughout the movie, through that second scene. This is actually Mark DiCroce's axe. This is actually, if you check it out, this is actually not hard at all. It's resin, and the wood is very light. Yeah.
But so they're like, oh, so which gun do you want, Manny? And he's like, and they're like, no, he doesn't use guns.
And he pulls that out,
this thing out,
and then he throws it. Cuts the pumpkin in half. So this was the axe from that scene.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. And
then there's the final fight
after he dies. We're not ruining anything. Whatever. If you haven't seen this movie by now, get over it.
Yeah.
So Manny dies, and for me, one of the most heart fucking wrenching scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, like the way it was shot, the way the actor conveyed everything. When he found out that fucking Manny died, when they threw him over the fucking hill and they threw him in the fucking pit and they left him there, and DeFranczak fucking found him. That was so powerfully emotional to me. Like, fuck, dude. I mean, and then that's when he fucking goes and clears that fucking house.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, but that scene when he lost his best friend, you really realize the bond that they fucking had.
Oh, yeah.
That was so wonderfully done.
Yep, totally.
And then afterwards he goes and he fucking clears.
He just massacres everybody.
Yeah.
He massacres everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah.
He with no mercy.
And then with the help of Monica Bellucci and all that, they fake his death.
Yes, that's right.
They all think he's dead
because they arrest him.
Yeah,
for being a fucking psychopath.
Yeah,
and fucking fucking everybody up. So they arrest him, and then she poisons him, but he doesn't know it.
Yep.
So she poisons him and then fakes his death, gets him out of the fucking prison.
They literally bury him and then dig him up again later.
Yes. And then they sow this whole big thing to where now this cult group that is against the king, that with the bishop, that are with the bishop, that are against the king, that are, sowing this political
strife,
upheaval.
Strife. Yeah.
And they're having their meeting. And then you have de Fronsac, who's like fucking up in the back, and he starts.
They're like in some abandoned old like cathedral or building. It's got vines and trees and shit growing
it's really
around
cool.
it.
It's really
They're
cool
having like their little cult meeting, and everybody's in hoods and capes and
right. The
and
nighttime
like
is the nighttime.
Yeah, totally.
And then de Fronsac starts talking shit about them, like some mystical fucking voice.
He's all fucking like Rambo, like he's got his face painted and
face
shit.
Painted black. He's ready to go fuck these guys up.
Yeah.
And he starts calling all of them out.
Yep.
And then finally he does this awesome front flip, and then he fucking and he flips out his
swords,
his spinning swords, which by the way
Paul has right here. Yeah.
So these are de Fronsac spinning swords. They do not have the ability to make them spin. They didn't come with them. But yeah, basically he would hold these in between his fingers like this, and they would have a little thing, and he would be able to spin them around, and they would go 360.
Here, look, I'll put this up by the camera. You can see where the apparatus was.
Yeah.
Where it would spin. You can see at the hilt there. This is awesome. Oh,
so,
there's even little grooves. I can see the little groove. Oh, it actually turns.
That one does. Yeah, this one has that piece missing.
This one actually turns.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
So what's crazy is when you see the weight and what and the make of these.
Yeah, these are pretty light.
Right? So
but
then
they would have to be for him to be able to spin it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when he goes through the scene, he breaks out these, he fucks everybody up, takes the gypsy claws, fucks up a couple other guys.
Yep.
And then the main
Vincent
Cassel, the main guy, comes out, and he brings out his fucking weapon. He shows obviously that both of his fucking arms work, in case you didn't notice.
Oh yeah, we didn't mention that. Like through the whole story, his character supposedly spent time in Africa hunting lions, and he had his arm ripped off
while he was attacked for a lion. So he had one arm through the whole movie. So basically, that he was, so when I say he reveals it, because he pulls his arm out from behind his back, because he had it tied up with a fucking corset.
Yeah.
So nobody could tell that he had an arm back there.
And he brings out this mangled fucking, like, scarred up, like, dude, all right, cut your fingernails. Like, what's with the fingernails?
It was so gross.
Why does he have like 2-inch long fingernails?
Considering the way we are with fingernails in this gym, that was disgusting.
Well, not only that, but it's like, dude, okay, I understand your arm is mangled and decrepit and scarred up, and like you can still cut your fucking fingernails,
right?
Like it works enough for you to hold a fucking sword or whatever. And then plus you've got it tucked under this corset. You've got this thing, like 2-inch fingernails tucked up against.
The second he pulled that out, I felt like I could smell it.
Well, that's what they said. Remember his sister when the guy was going to rape his own sister, and she's like, you smell like the beast. Like she's talking about his smell.
Right.
Because he reveals his arm to her.
But then there was also the scene when there was another scene when de Fronsac had an encounter with the beast when he went to go to Marion.
Yes.
And she was with her aunt and uncle.
Yes.
And then the beast was going to go and actually had a moment where it was about to kill Marion and sniffed and stopped.
Yep.
So the line that you're talking about is she goes, that's why the beast didn't kill me. He could fucking smell you.
That makes sense.
He knew it was you. So that's when she realizes it, and that's when he goes fucking super nuts.
See, it's the little details that they pay attention to in this movie that are really good. Like when they find the one victim, and the hunters tell Fronsac, like, don't touch it, we poisoned it.
Yes. And then
you see all these dead birds around
it. And then the one bird that's kind of like...
Yeah, and then you realize, oh, the birds have been feeding on that corpse.
So they're dead.
Yeah, they're all
poisoned.
Dead.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's about to fight... Vincent Cassel's about to fight Fronsac.
Mm-hmm.
He reveals this, I don't know, this gross, unfingernailed cut arm, and he fights him with what?
And then he fights him with this really cool weapon. It's like a bone sword. And then this entire weapon, like what it did when it extended and turned into like kind of like that chain whip.
Yeah.
That was all CGI.
Yeah.
The weapon in itself is one piece. And the reason I know that is
because you have it.
Because I have it.
But it's literally like a sword whip chain combo.
So this is the bone sword that Vincent Cassel used at the end of Brotherhood of the Wolf. Now, when you think about the scene, you think about how many times these clashed with this.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to let you feel the weight of this and how this is basically solid resin.
Yeah, this is basically like...
There must have been amazing control on his part to not break through that weapon and hit him in the face.
Holy cow, this is really actually very heavy.
Yes. So imagine that, right? That versus these.
Yeah.
Which is probably why they had to fix one of these.
Oh, yeah. There you go. This thing is very heavy. This is very heavy, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, like being the guy that has these.
Yeah.
And then having to block that.
No, but yeah, this is the kind of thing where if you miss with the choreography, you're cracking the shit out of your partner.
So how amazing must have been like Vincent Cassel's control and the stunt and his stunt guy, wielding that. But from the cuts I saw, Vincent Cassel pretty much had his hands on that a lot.
Yeah.
And he was wielding it around. It wasn't a stunt guy.
This is pretty insane, dude.
That's pretty insane. I mean, of all the stunt weapons I've ever felt, I would say this outweighs them by 7 to 8 pounds.
Yeah.
This is fucking heavy.
That's heavy.
Solid. This is a solid piece. Whatever this is like solid composite.
Totally belongs in a 18th century French period piece.
Right.
Right. But it was
but he had it made in Africa.
Yeah. By the savages.
And then just a little extra, just because of my movie nerdy, I also have a 35 millimeter film trailer of this movie because why the fuck not?
But there's a scene, and you can see, everybody, this is like a custom poster for American Werewolf in London from like one of my favorites. I mean, every scene is my favorite, but this is the subway chase scene.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where, the commuter is being chased through the subway by the wolf.
Oh, and this is also, go ahead.
But this reminds me, I think we're thinking of the same thing.
You go.
Where he is chased onto an escalator and he trips and falls. He's going up the escalator.
Backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's up near the top of the escalator and looking down the escalator, and out from underneath the tunnel, the wolf appears, like slowly stalking. It's like, oh my God. Now, there is a very similar scene in Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Yes, there is. When she's going up the side of the mountain. Yeah.
But it's a CGI wolf that comes out. And I was just like, oh man.
Right.
They could have done it just like this.
Mm-hmm.
They could have done it like this.
Practical.
It looks so real.
Like if you already had the practical there, you already had why go both?
Yeah.
Why not just, go all in?
Yeah, for real, man.
I agree.
But can you imagine making a mashup of these two movies? There must be a way to mash up some parts of this movie. I'm sure we could do it. We'd have to. It's a challenge.
It'd be a challenge. It'd be tough. I mean, you could probably do it with the escalator scene. Would be your best bet to try and do it there.
Yeah, like when she's crawling up that pit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, good shit.
That was awesome.
Yeah, man,
this is fun.
Yeah,
going down the rabbit hole.
Very fun. Very fun. So before we go, Paul. This was an amazing conversation. By the way.
Oh, this was awesome. It
was totally cool.
Yeah.
Like these two movies match up in so many ways that I actually didn't even think about.
We didn't even realize until we decided to do this, and then we started rewatching both of these movies getting ready for this episode, and then we were just like, fuck.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But before we sign off on this episode, we should actually remind people that we do have a Patreon.
A what?
Patreon. A Patreon.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
And it's not some weird fiery, flighty fucking reindeer that comes when we flick our wand.
What?
Oh, no. Sorry, that's a Patronus. My bad. Sorry.
Yeah. But we should remind people that we have a Patreon, and if they dig our show, they can actually help support us by subscribing to our Patreon.
And, subscribe. What's the word? subscribe.
Yeah.
When they get over five letters, I get confused.
Yeah.
So yeah, subscribe to our Patreon, and please make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to our Instagram,
Facebook, everything.
YouTube, everything. Please, all of the likes, all the follows that we get are just we need all of the
comment,
everything.
It's basically on all social media outlets where Fights with Friends pod.
Yeah, please like, follow, and please comment anything you have ideas for upcoming episodes.
Heck yeah.
Fights you guys want us to talk about and break down. You're like, hey, I've always wondered how they did this.
Yep.
Shoot us a comment and let us know, and maybe we'll go down the rabbit hole and do an episode for you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
The easiest way, I mean, you can comment on a lot of the stuff, but Facebook is pretty easy to have a conversation with us, and so is Instagram. And we do have a private chat for Patreon subscribers, like a members only chat. So you can jump in there and talk to us. There's lots of way to reach out. Our email too. It'll all be in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Dude, this was a fun one.
Dude, this is awesome.
All right, brother.
Yeah.
Check you later.
Later, dude.
Peace.
Bye. Fights with Friends is brought to you by Breakfall Studios and Press Record Studios. Executive producers, Stephen Koepfer, Paul Varacchi, and Thiago Benedetti. Produced by Matthew Kaplowitz. Associate producers, Becca GT and Jared DiCroce. Our video editor is Matthew Kaplowitz. Original music by Ahrue Luster.